We're going to call our December 6th meeting to order. Roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Warren.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem DeForest.
Here.
Mayor Ingram.
I am ready.
Let the record reflect all members are present.
You want to go over the public comments for closed session items?
Thank you, Mr.
Please.
Mayor. Just a note to the public that closed session will be held after the regular city council meeting. We'll take public comment for closed session items now and before we recess into closed session. With that said, Mr. Mayor, I have no public comments on closed session.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so at this time I'm going to pledge allegiance, and then Pastor, are you ready, sir? Why don't we go ahead and do the pastor first? Mr. Wonderlick, why don't you come up here with us and you can lead us in the pledge as soon as the pastor's done. Please, sir. Yeah, what he's going to say.
Let us pray. First of all, it's a privilege to be here again. Universal Spirit, God of wisdom, we pray for this meeting. Particularly, we pray that this meeting will be productive and a pleasure and an honor for you and for this community. Grant wisdom to those who would serve this community, and especially the members of the City Council. Give clarity to the leaders and others who speak tonight, so that they can effectively tackle each part of tonight's agenda. Reveal problem areas and show them the best solutions that would apply. Point their eyes to every positive outcome since their last meeting and the meetings before that, and let these favorable results and developments encourage every heart in this room. Spirit of all, help us apply your wisdom as they decide on certain matters and make plans. Particularly, we pray that we would honor you by seeking mercy and justice and walking humbly with you. This we pray in your name, O God. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Wonderlick, sir.
During these challenging times for our nation, I think we can be thankful for two things. First of all, that the city of Murrieta continues to chart a great course forward, and also thankful for folks like John Hunneman, who's devoted so much time and energy to this city. So thank you all for that. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Gene. See, that's what happens when you have that radio star voice, Mr. Wonderlick. All right, so Mr. Hunneman, I hear you're running away from us after 20 years. Running away? So you had a few, okay, so why don't you go ahead and call up who wanted to come up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Leah, if you would like to come up, please, and Mr. Hunneman, if you could please join her.
Good evening, everybody. Let me adjust this a little bit. Okay. Thank you all for coming out. It is my pleasure to present a proclamation to my very good friend, Mr. John Hunneman, who has provided many years of service and volunteerism to the city of Murrieta and to the valley as a whole. So we have a proclamation for him. And I wasn't sure what that is.
You can go ahead and read it if you like.
All right. So yes, it is. So I'll read the proclamation.
Figures Mr. Long did that, didn't he?
We're like,
This is a sign.
It is a sign.
Yes.
Invite me anytime.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
That's okay.
All right. So I won't necessarily read the entire proclamation. I'll just hit the highlights for us. John has served over 20 years in the Valley, and this proclamation tonight is in honor of his Master of Ceremony abilities for our Veterans Day Parade. But if you know John, you know that he has served more than just with our Veterans Day Parade. So with his wife, Yvonne, they moved here in 1988, I believe. And I'm just going to go hit the highlights of what he's done since they moved to this valley. So in addition to MC duties for Veterans Day, John has worked as a journalist and columnist for a variety of news outlets for over 25 years. He was named Director of Communications for then State Senator Jeff Stone in the 28th District in early 2015. John and his wife Yvonne both served on the Community Recreation Center Building Foundation and have volunteered many years for the Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Festival. John has coached and managed a number of Murrieta Valley Little League teams for over a dozen years and has provided support for the Murrieta Valley Nighthawks Football Booster Club. In addition to acting as, once again, the MC for the Veterans Day Parade, he has been the Master of Ceremonies for over 5 years at the Rotary's Candlelight Ceremony during the Field of Honor. He has also served on the Murrieta Historic Preservation Committee, and he currently serves on the Measure T Committee, and he also chairs the Parks and Recreation Commission. But most importantly, he has volunteered more times than I can count to play the jolly old elf himself when Santa wasn't feeling good. And and I just can't thank you enough for all the times you filled in on those occasions. So it was spreading joy and listening to kids' wish lists and all of that. We thank you for all your service for over the 20 years that you have volunteered for Murrieta. Yes.
Right here. Absolutely. Well, it's from the mayor and the council, of course. But, I mean, I can speak from the heart here because we're buds. We've probably done more events together than I can even count anymore. It's been quite a while. So the proclamation says pretty much the same thing she said, but I can tell you that we couldn't have achieved a lot of what we've achieved with the Veterans event, all the other events that you've done over the years, and I consider you family. You've served this community so well in so many different capacities, and hopefully you're not going anywhere. You're not running away from us. We're going to keep you here for as long as we can because we do know where you live. I know you do. Yeah, and make sure the chief gets your new license plate so we can follow you. Okay. So what I want to do before I give you this is I want to start with Councilmember White. Any comments that you want to make for Mr. Hahn?
yes, thanks to you for all of your service to our community, as was outlined. And you're really an example of a citizen that participates in an exemplary way and participates and gives something to the community and the region in which you live in. So thank you very much for setting that example. And also thank you to your wife for her contributions of time and support while you make a sacrifice. She's making a sacrifice too. So thanks to your family and for you for all you've done. And I hope all your travels. Pardon? He was just happy to get me. I'm sure she's happy when you come home as well. Thank you for all you've done, and thank you for having, she's shaking her head no? Okay.
Out of that house, you can't make a mess.
Just going down a dark road, you know that?
Except something must be working because you have a lot of traveling in your plans ahead, and we wish you bon voyage and have great travels, especially during the winter months when travel is at a peak. And we hope to see you from time to time and that you'll still be around, and don't be a stranger. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stone.
John, what year did you start with Katie?
KRTM 1990.
So that's when I met you.
Yeah, I think
Was
so.
in 1990. So
It
it's
was
been
the most popular radio station in town
Yeah.
because it's the only one that came in.
correct. And while I was very, 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 very young at the time,
I know.
I've always looked up to you.
You were just a child.
Just a child. Anyways, thank you for the many contributions over the many years that you have given back to not just Murrieta, but this region. And when we have volunteers or people that serve from their heart, it represents the quality of life that we have here today. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you have done. I know you're not going to go anywhere. I'm really sad to see that you've retired from being our MC for our Veterans Parade, but you never, ever know. Never, right? Never say never.
I know your brother.
And I'm sorry for that, by the way. But anyways, God bless you, your wife, your family, and I hope that you do travel, which is your bucket list, and you take the time to enjoy the fruits of your labor for all these years and enjoy your retirement. So God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Warren.
John, you're one of the first persons I met here in Murrieta, and you probably don't even remember that. But your example of leadership, volunteerism is why I give back, and is an example that I just think is exemplary. And I am in awe of all you have done for this community. I'm glad you're not running away. That's a very good thing. We will miss you at the parade, but I'm sure you're going to be back because somehow we might be able to twist your arm some way. We'll work on that. Okay, I've got about a year to do that. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the giving back you have done, and for your family, and for making Murrieta the place that we all love to live, work, and play. You are an extraordinary man.
Thank you, Cindy.
God bless.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, John, I concur with everything that's been said about you. Thank you for over 20 years of service, your wife as well. Thanks for lending your voice to the parade. I don't know if any other voice will be equal to yours, because yours is amazing and so fantastic, because you make everyone feel like you know everyone that's in that parade, which I absolutely love. He probably does, yes. Your character is what has woven Murrieta and this great city, and it wouldn't be the great city that it is. And I don't know if you remember, I met you when my kids started playing football for Murrieta Nighthawks. So that was way back. And I just thank you for always being there to support so many different venues in our city. Also, Murrieta has a tendency of bringing you back, even though you may leave her. She always drags you back. So hopefully you'll be drugged back, and adventure awaits, and enjoy. So thank you so much for all your service.
Thank you very much.
You didn't invite us on vacation with you.
Oh, no. The invite's in the mail.
So I know that there'll be plenty for you to do. Like another thing is thank you for your service in the military, and so much, all the things not only that you've done for veterans, but for our children, our softball, our baseball. We can just go on and on and on. And I remember sitting in Jeff's office with you at times where we're fielding calls, and you've worked with the people of this community, and you're pretty thick-skinned, so.
Gotta be.
Absolutely, and Dr. DeForest is right. You have a very unique voice that can be heard from a long way away. You and Mr. Wundler, that can pick out in a crowd of 1,000, so God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Godspeed. Let's get some photos. Council, like to come down and get some photos?
I got to say that the first commission I was on in Murrieta was right after incorporation, and we were setting something called equivalent development units, which is how much people's houses and buildings were going to be taxed. We were not a popular commission. People were tearing down buildings rather than having them get taxed after incorporation. But I thank you very much, and just the spirit of volunteerism was here when we got to Murrieta. I think it's probably started with the fire department in 1947, and we just lost Marv Curran not too long ago, and it was here, and I just kind of picked up with it, and I was lucky in my profession and with my family to be able to devote the time, and I would encourage everybody. It's amazing what you get back. I think the more you give, the more you get back, and it's been that way for 35 years here in Murrieta. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just re-upping for another 4 years on the Parks and Rec Commission, and I'm on Measure T, and if they'll keep me, and I appreciate it very much. Okay.
The city manager's gonna let you know that, about the lights.
So it seems that our elf on the shelf is toying with us. And so we're going to need to take a couple seconds and play with the lights a little bit. So please just have a couple minutes of patience and hopefully we will get it fixed.
Do you want us to stay in our seats?
What, I think what she's trying to say is we're not trying to keep the public in the dark.
That's pretty good.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, now that, yes. Where's Melody? Okay, so now that we're back in transparent mode here and you can see us, we're gonna move forward. The agenda. Any changes to the agenda at this time? Colleagues? All right, I'm looking for a motion in a second, please. Please cast your votes.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. All right. Department Commission announcements, Madam City Manager.
I have nothing.
Administrative update.
I have nothing this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, Councilmember White.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the executive committee meeting yesterday for WRCOG, and I have some slides. The recap of the major items will be posted on the website. There was several agenda items. One was the update on the Energy Resilience Plan, ERP, ERP it's called, and that was approved. And then on slide 8, you'll see we also received and filed a first quarter financial update for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. And the key report item to report out for staff and council as the representative from Murrieta attending the meeting is that the TUMF transportation uniform mitigation fees may experience a dip in revenue projections due to the current changes in economic conditions. That concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman White represented WRCOG on behalf of the city, so I have nothing to report out, so thank you. And thank you, Councilwoman White, for attending the WRCOG meeting on my behalf.
Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Mary. I have nothing to report out.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I will concur with Councilmember Warren. I also have nothing to report out.
I have
Thank you,
nothing,
Mr. Mayor.
nothing significant to report myself, so we're going to go ahead and move along. We're looking at Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Ms.
Public comments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now is the time for public comment. Any person may address the governing bodies on any subject matter pertaining to city business. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the governing bodies on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Michael Fisher?
Good evening, Mr. Fisher.
Where's the little button? Oh, there it is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council people, and also the city staff. I'm just here for a good note, not a bad note. I have no complaint. It is a great city. My name is Michael Fisher, and I've been a resident of our great city of Murrieta for 10 years. And I just wanted to come and congratulate the city, and especially the Public Works Department, for the Fix It program and the app. I happen to use it, and I'm not technically a good person, but I used it, and within 24 hours, it was fixed. And it was a safety issue for a sidewalk that somebody could have tripped and hurt themselves badly. And the Fix It program works. So I would suggest everybody to get that app. You can take a picture while you're walking. You can then upload it to the app, and the Public Works and all the other departments respond just immediately. I mean, within 24 hours, I had the case closed. So I was very excited. I also wanted to come here and thank the mayor, Mr. John Ingram, for his leadership, commitment, drive, and dedication to the city over the time and terms of his career here in Murrieta City Council. I've been inspired by you. I have also hated some of the things you've done, but more than that, you're a family member and you've supported me very well through these 10 years, and I'm very appreciative of you. I also want to thank an outgoing city council person, Christy White, for her dedication, determination to the city, and to the observant way in which she handled her district and the city to try to improve the community. We need people like that, and I appreciate that, Councilwoman White, and it's just a pleasure to be able to thank people for the good things they do. Overall, I want to finally welcome to the newly elected, or what you would call what? Council-elect people who are going to take over and get their oath on December 20th. I'm excited about Miss Cindy Warren returning in her position, and then the new council people that are the elect. And I hope that they will come with a lot of excitement, a lot of inspiration that you have, Mr. Mayor. And finally, I would like to say that I am looking forward to more cohesiveness from the city council in this new direction with the change in the mayorship and everything to help keep our great city of Murrieta running very, very smoothly and moving forward. As a 10-year resident, I've seen nothing but moving forward. The city staff is some of the best there is, and I'll be through in 1 second. I know how that 3-minute works. And then the other thing that I wanted to say was thank you, family, and I consider the city, you and the council family, for supporting me through this tough year that I've gone through and the tough 60 days ahead of me. So I really appreciate all of your help, your support, and you're like a family to me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher, for the kind words, and God bless you. Next speaker, Madam City Clerk.
Connie McConnell.
Connie only gets 60 seconds. Hi, Connie.
Now, Mayor Ingram, you're almost going to be gone, and I know it's very sad for you because you're going to miss seeing me up here all the time. And so I'm sorry for that, but please try to struggle through.
I'll sit out there with you now.
Okay, you can do that. One of my greatest disappointments this last year was I never did get him into a dunk tank for the market nights, and I'm so sorry for that. We got kind of cheap and we didn't want to pay for the dunk tank. So maybe next year you won't be on the council, but maybe we can, in the summer, we'll still get you there.
I think I have a little pull with the next mayor, so we'll just have to see about getting her in the dunk tank as well.
There's still time, but it's a little cold.
She's a doctor, so if anything gets
Yeah.
hurt, we can get adjusted, you know?
Yeah, that's true. It's a little cold for this season, but my big update for tonight is from the Arts Council. And on Thursday morning, on the 8th, Brian, we're going to be putting up our first mural downtown in Murrieta, and it will be on the side of the old Ray's Cafe. So Brian, next we're working on the sculpture garden, and you said if we got some going, then the city would do that. So anyway, that's my big update for tonight. Thank you guys for your support in the past and for helping us with the market, with the Arts Council. Let's see, Merchants, Historic Society, oh, and the Cemetery District too. So Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas. Next speaker, Madam City Clerk.
Joe Burke.
Good evening, everyone. Last council meeting, the Murrieta firefighters were here and we gave a little presentation recognizing our 75th year and a token of our appreciation to council and staff. And if it wouldn't be Mr. John Ingram's style to call off sick and make me do this again, so thanks.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So as we close out 2022, we are taking a minute to recognize our 75 years in existence as a fire department, fire district, fire and rescue. And we wouldn't be here today without the continued support of not only our community, but of our city staff and our city council. So we have a little something for you, Mr. Ingram, if you don't mind coming down, a little token of our appreciation.
Oh, I was like, what's happening? You guys. It's a pop-up move.
I'm sure it looks hilarious from.
You guys don't usually do that.
Beautiful. So the badge even has your name on it.
I know, I saw, I was like, wow.
And no taking that out of the frame.
I was just gonna say the same. Break the glass. It's not if an emergency.
Yeah, we need little silver hammers.
Yeah.
What an honor. Thank you so much. All right, the chiefs are over there talking again. You two are going to get a timeout. I'm going to separate you. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. All right, do we have any other speakers? Madam City Clerk?
That concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you. Consent calendar approval, items 1 through 12. Any questions? Madam City Clerk?
Seeing none. And Mr. Mayor, I would just like to note for item 6, the date that is proclaimed as Arbor Day is April 28th, not the 23rd as stated on the agenda.
Okay.
Otherwise than that, we're ready for a motion.
Okay. So no questions from anybody on the dais? Not hearing any. I'm looking for a motion, please, in a second.
It's already happened.
Cast your votes.
Thank you, Lori. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Thank you, Council.
And
Oh,
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to note items 7, 10, and 11 include the approval from redevelopment successor agency members as well as the Housing Authority.
Right. Okay, thank you. So we're on item 13, correct? At this point, public
Yes.
hearings. Transit occupancy tax. And who are we going to have speaking on that?
Good evening, Mayor Ingram, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council
I
members.
didn't even recognize you with the beard. I'm sorry.
That was all part of my disguise.
Yeah.
Do you know who he looks like? Who does he look like to you? Does he look like Jason Stone?
Yeah, he does.
He does, yeah. Sorry, go
He
ahead.
just looks too distinguished.
So we're holding this public hearing this evening in order to discuss a proposed transient occupancy tax revenue sharing agreement between the City of Murrieta and Three Thrones Hospitality LP. Let me get the screen up here. So the project generating this potential agreement will be a 6-story, 131-room hotel, which would be larger than any hotel currently operating in the City of Murrieta. It has many wonderful amenities that you can see here. The hotel will be located in the McKenna Medical Development Site, and it's just south of Loma Linda University Medical Center. This hotel would provide a number of benefits to the city and assist us with an important element that we need to address here in Murrieta, which is medical tourism. As your council has correctly pointed out, Loma Linda University Medical Center is a regional hospital and services patients from a wide-reaching distance. Kaiser Permanente is also nearing the opening of their second phase of their development, and at build-out will be one of the largest employers in Southwest Riverside County. These medical centers bring in patients and the relatives of those patients that need nearby facilities for close access to medical services. These medical partners also bring in traveling nurses, doctors, physicians' residents, and other staff that need hotel services. In fact, Loma Linda University Medical Center, who's here with us tonight, already has an agreement in place with this hotelier for room stays in another hotel that they operate within the city. So the construction of this hotel will offer them more availability, more convenience, and closer access for their patients. Your council has determined that economic development is a key priority for the city, and tourism and leisure are central to this pathway. In our general plan, specifically the policy listed here is ED 7.2, we seek to encourage the development of business-oriented hotels, particularly ones that capitalize on our office and professional base. This is important because it increases the hotel's weekday traffic, which is a key to the success of a hotel development. The challenges that we see are that hotels are just not being built in the current market, and many struggle to find funding. The good news for us is that this hotel group that represents this project has a history of success and has built and is operating a hotel here in Murrieta. Noted here is a quote from CBRE that reports that even the LA market has not had a ground-up development of a full-service hotel in 15 years without financial incentive. In order to assist with the recruitment of hotels, the city has contracted with HVS for a feasibility study for all market types. This information is always available on our city website, and we update this study every single year. The study shows a near break-even point for new construction in our market. Since the time of this study, construction cost, interest rates, and timelines due to supply chain shortages have all increased, making the feasibility of a development even more challenging today. Therefore, Three Thrones Hospitality has requested a TOT revenue sharing agreement with the city. This agreement would be a 50-50 split of all TOT revenue generated until the amount of $1 million is paid out to Three Thrones. After that time, all TOT revenue would go back to the city. This project would meet the needs of the city in a variety of ways, with new job and revenue creation, enhanced facilities that will offer a major benefit to our medical services corridor, and the further commercial growth of the northeast region of our city. Transient occupancy tax are unique in that all of the revenue from them goes directly to the city. In addition to that revenue, Pinnacle Advisory Group estimates that a new hotel of this type could generate up to an additional $14 million in economic impacts outside of the facility, which benefit the other businesses nearby. California Code Section 53083 allows the city the ability to create these types of economic development subsidies. The city has created and posted an economic development subsidy report on our website and will maintain the proper updates. I'd like to point out that many other cities have created policies or agreements authorizing similar TOT revenue shares, and here are just some examples nearby. And I'd also like to note that this development has not yet been approved by the city. We are seeking today to secure an agreement on the revenue sharing portion only. This agreement is a contingency, getting the revenue sharing agreement is a contingency on the developer's end for closing escrow on the site. This approval will not further commit the city to approve the actual project. If the project does get approved and when the hotel goes into operation and begins to generate TOT, or transient occupancy tax, revenue to the city, then at that time, this agreement would commence. With that, staff recommends your council approve and accept an economic development subsidy report and authorize a transient occupancy tax revenue sharing agreement with Three Thrones Hospitality LP for a hotel proposed to be located at APN 392-290-053. Thank you for your consideration on this, and staff, as well as representatives from both the hotel group and medical partners of the hotel group, are here to answer any questions that you may have at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Agajanian, for taking the time to bring this forward. I think this is a pearl that's sorely needed, especially in that corridor. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and comments from the council at this time regarding the request from staff. Please.
Thank you for your report. It was great slides. On one of your slides, you did note that there's a projection in the first 10 years of $70 million in gross revenues, and with approximately, it's almost $7 million in TOT revenues for the city of Murrieta in the first 10 years. So I wanted to articulate that. It was on your slide. It's noted that the city would keep 50% of the TOT collected until the $1 million threshold is received by the developer, and we estimate that approximately 3 years to reach that threshold. My one question I have is, would there be any adverse impacts to the city if it took longer than the estimated threshold to reach the $1 million in TOT revenues?
No, the $1 million threshold would remain the same no matter how long it takes to get there. The only adverse effect would be that it would be a slower revenue creation for the city and for the developer.
And if we planned for 3 years and it took 5 years, how would we adjust for that?
So we would continue to collect the TOT revenue that's coming into the city and split it with the developer until the $1 million is paid out. At that time, we would then start collecting all of it.
And we'll monitor it every quarter through the period of the 3 years?
We monitor through our finance department, and they've done a great job with our other revenue sharing agreements.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Those are my questions and comments.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I just have one question for you, Scott. Thank you. Great presentation. We have nothing. I mean, I drive that area all the time. We have nothing to support our hospital over there. This would be truly the anchor to support the hospital as well as support Loma Linda as well as Kaiser. Is that correct?
Thank you for that question. That is absolutely the point of this revenue sharing agreement, is to help to support our medical growing corridor over there that doesn't have any services nearby.
All right. Well, thank you. I think this is very exciting, and I look forward to that getting approved from the city and moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Mayor Pro Tem's always spot on. She's a sniper with this. Nothing from nothing leads nothing. There's nothing there, right? Unless math's changed. So I will take 50% of something every day over 100% of nothing. So great work. Absolutely. So on that note, we're going to look at, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing now on that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Any comments, public comments at this time, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Patrick Ellis.
Oh, no. Patrick, good evening, sir.
Mayor Ingram, council, staff, Patrick Ellis, President and CEO of the Murrieta-Wildomar Chamber of Commerce, also President and CEO of Explore Murrieta. I wasn't ready. I thought you'd have the better looking gentleman come up first and speak, but I will take this time, obviously, not just because of Explore Murrieta and the benefit that this hotel will bring to our community and to Explore Murrieta, but this has been a desperate need. This is something that we have worked diligently on, going to ICSC and speaking with all the hoteliers, that has been desperately needed for the 215 corridor. The health care facilities up there desperately need something like this right now. Anyone who has to come to the area and help a loved one or what have you now has to travel all the way down to this side of the town, or now go all the way up into Menifee. What we want to be able to do is provide these individuals and the traveling doctors, nurses, and such the ability to have space right there with convenience, with, I mean, timeliness obviously is everything. So we are completely in support of this project. And I can't implore you enough to please vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Next speaker, Madam City Clerk.
Seeing none.
Okay. Well, Loma Linda didn't want to comment at all? Jonathan, you didn't want to comment?
I believe he was available for any questions that your
Oh,
council
okay.
might have.
Well, I don't sound like we have any questions, so, everybody good? All right, so then, no more comments. We're gonna go ahead and close, and, we're gonna bring it back to the dais. We're looking for a motion in a second, unless there are more comments.
You girls are fast.
Don't mess around. We got a motion in a second. Now let's cast their vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Okay. Consideration Development Code Amendment, Chapter 16.38, Sign Standards.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. So tonight we have a dual presentation for you, actually. So I will be presenting on the Development Code Amendment, and Mr. Agajanian will be assisting with the relocation agreement. So just to give you an overview of staff's recommendation, staff is requesting that you open and conduct the public hearing, determine the project is exempt from state environmental law known as the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, based on a Class 2 and 3 exemption. Class 2 has to deal with the replacement of existing structures, which is what the existing billboards are. And then Class 3 has to do with the construction of new structures, which would be the proposed billboard signs. Also, staff is recommending that you conduct the first reading for proposed ordinance 587-22, as well as approve the billboard relocation agreement. So in terms of background for this project, my understanding is that the city has been pursuing the reduction of existing billboards since 1997. City code currently prohibits any new billboards from being constructed. Existing billboards are considered non-conforming. They were approved by the County of Riverside before the city incorporated. City efforts since the 1990s have sought to reduce or eliminate the existing non-conforming billboard signs that currently exist in the community. So just in term of reference, non-conforming signs mean that the signs were legally permitted when originally allowed by the county, but they are now no longer permitted by the city's municipal code. And you can see the definition of the billboard that the city maintains in its zoning code. So back in 2012, staff presented an inventory of existing billboards, and my understanding is that the number of billboards has gone down from 14 to 13. Mr. Agajanian has an updated slide showing the locations of the current billboards. So in terms of the code amendment, the proposal is to maintain the prohibition against what's considered new billboards. The ordinance also provides for existing billboards to be relocated pursuant to approval of a relocation agreement, which is what Mr. Agajanian will describe to you. The ordinance establishes the standards in which, in terms of the zones that billboards would be allowed, and you can see in the third bullet point the list of those. And then generally the zones that are described in the third bullet point reflect the freeway adjacent zones, and we have an inset of the zoning map on display for you. Further with the code amendment proposal, the major elements are that only legally existing established billboards would qualify for a relocation agreement. So an illegally constructed billboard would not qualify. The amendment allows for digital displays or static displays. The ordinance requires staff to conduct a use compatibility review prior to the approval of any relocated billboards. It also requires staff to consider light and glare issues, aesthetics, driver safety, as well as distracted driving. Relocated billboards would be subject to a conditional use permit and/or relocation agreement, and there are also potentially development agreement requirements as they apply. So the intent of the amendment is to reduce visual clutter. I mentioned we have 13 existing billboards. We're trying to reduce that number even further. We're eliminating non-conforming signage by allowing 30-year-old or more signs to be replaced with more modern signs. The amendment would allow a redistribution of existing billboards to more appropriate sign locations, and it also introduced modern technology such as the digital displays. And then there's kind of the last bullet point speaks to kind of a nuanced issue. It's not likely to occur, but the city attorney's office indicated there would be an appropriate measure to include. Essentially, it precludes the city from having to pay a billboard agency if there's for example, a public works project that results in a billboard having to be relocated. So there's a safeguard that's being built into the proposed ordinance. So at this time, I'd like to return the presentation over to Mr. Agajanian.
Hello again, Mayor and Council. So as David stated, we're handling the relocation agreement portion of this presentation. So a couple of years ago, Lamar Outdoor Advertising approached the city again to offer to take down some of their static billboards and replace them with digital billboards. In this case, offering a net reduction, which would take us from 7 of their static billboards and replace them with 4 new digital signs, which would reduce our overall by a total of 3 billboards. The new signage would look something like what's pictured here, as you've seen now and on a previous slide. In a return for allowing this replacement and conversion over to digital signage, Lamar has also offered the following financial incentives to the city. The city would receive an upfront payment of $250,000 per digital sign that is put up. So when 4 go up, it would be a total of $1 million, but we would get paid per sign that goes up, so we wouldn't be waiting on one final sign to come in to complete the agreement. The city would also receive a revenue sharing agreement with a guaranteed minimum of $400,000 per year. That's the floor that we could receive, although the annual amount is likely to be much higher than that in actual revenues to the city. In addition, Lamar would provide the city with free unsold advertising space, which would be valuable for city announcements and communications. And finally, the city would receive a digital monument sign here at City Hall that we could use for messaging. So this agreement would do many things that could have a positive effect for the city, beginning with reducing the number of existing billboards from a total of 13 that exist now down to 10. We're also improving the aesthetic aspect of these signs, as the 7 that are taken down are older static signs and replaced with new digitals that will go up in their place. And as a note, these digital signs will be double-sided just like the static signs that they are replacing. So nothing will change there. There's also going to be 1 static sign that will be reconstructed to make it more visibly pleasing. And while there are other major financial considerations that are included in the agreement, one aspect that should be noted here is that Lamar Outdoor Advertising is offering to limit advertising content on their within their binding relocation agreement that will block certain types of ads from their billboards, such as advertisements for drugs or marketing for adult-oriented businesses. And that's something that they're doing of their own volition in order to make this agreement very appealing to the city. And here's a picture of the existing billboards that are located in the city of Murrieta. Like we said, those are all static billboards. All of the existing billboards in the city are owned by Lamar Outdoor Advertising. There's no other agency that owns billboards in the city. There are 13 that physically exist right now. As David mentioned, I think there was 14 in the prior picture they showed, but this is what's existing right now. And on this slide, you can see the billboards that are to be removed or located. So in blue here, you will see all the billboards that are going to be removed. Those are the ones that are going away, with the yellows remaining. And finally, the red arrows show the potential locations of the 4 new digital billboards that would be going up. So these are the locations that they've selected to put up the new digital billboards. Of course, it's potential locations because they still have to work out lease agreements with those property sites. So Council, from an economic development perspective, this agreement would bring in a new funding stream for the city, provide for new communication channels to our community, and also reduce the number of older static billboards in the city. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to David Shantarangsu.
Thank you, sir. So with that, Mr. Mayor, staff has a 4-part recommendation for you to consider. So one is to open and conduct the public hearing and receive any public comments regarding the adoption of the ordinance and the proposed agreement. find that the actions are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, as I previously described. 3, conduct the first reading of the proposed ordinance number 587-22 for Development Code Amendment, DCA-2022-2729. And 4, approve the proposed billboard relocation agreement with Lamar Central Outdoor LLC. That concludes staff's presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so just a few things here before we start taking a lot of comments. We started on this in 2015. We've been working on this all a long time. Some of the issues that were in public comments that were addressed over the years is the lighting issue, especially with Palomar, and that was addressed with Lamar. Content was a concern, and that was addressed. Getting rid of the older, more beat-up billboards were addressed. Providing access to local businesses first and foremost was addressed. The revenue streams were addressed. So this is a culmination of 8 years worth of work to get this to here. With regard to the amendment, the process for that is far less tedious than it would be otherwise. And I think the city attorney could elaborate on it if we need to go there. But this is something that's been done by multiple cities throughout the county over the years. Is that correct? Okay. All right. On that note, questions from my colleagues. Let's start with Councilmember White.
Thank you for your report. It's very exciting. The digital monument, where will it be located? The one that City Hall is going to support?
So I believe there's another public works project that's going to take place here at City Hall, and so we're going to have to work around that to make sure that we place it right the correct spot. But I would imagine it's going to be here at the corner of Jefferson and Calmia at some appropriate location.
Great. And just to confirm my understanding, it's going to be a LED digital sign?
That is correct.
Perfect. And then I would like to just also give thanks to Lamar for voluntarily offering monitoring, overseeing, and administrating the use restriction mechanism that's been built into this that enables Murrieta to remain neutral regarding content, taking that responsibility. So thank you, Lamar. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor alluded, there were a lot of questions, and they were all answered. I'm not going to belabor all that again. The only question that I have is for Lamar. With regards to the unit that they are gifting us, will that happen immediately? Do we have to wait until they're all put up? I'd like to know when we will benefit from that gift.
So we have our business development program manager, James Wirtz, here, who is very knowledgeable about this agreement, and I think he can answer that question for us.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Stone. Lamar's been very generous with timeframes, and naturally you can see with the financial portion of the agreement. As Mr. Agajanian alluded to, timing is really up to the city on this. Again, in speaking with Public Works, we understand that there may be some amphitheater parking improvements, which may also have some landscaping improvements, which may also lead to some signage for downtown that would be on the corner of Calmia and Jefferson. So I understand those projects are waiting for funding. So again, we have the ability to go forward as quickly as possible or to delay it to whenever we need to coincide with that project if we need. So it's really up to the city to decide when we want that sign.
So we could move forward and accept this and work around the upgrades that we're going to do from the city's end of it.
We certainly
work
could.
around that?
We certainly could.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. Okay, thank you for answering my question.
Councilmember Warren.
An excellent report. I'm very happy to hear that the new technology, the overspray, the lighting, is not going to deter drivers as much as it has in the past with the older models of these billboards. I'm very excited about this, especially the new monument that's going to go up in City Hall. So good job, excellent report. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you so much for those great questions, everyone, and thank you for the report. The only thing I would like just to say is it's about time we get information out to the community. And this will allow us to get in front of our community. And I'm super excited about that. So if it got done yesterday. It would be not too soon to let the community know what's going on. This is an amazing city. We do so many things, and the people need to know, right, what's going on. So thank you so much for your report. I'm super excited about this. And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Just to dovetail on that, they do these signs all over Southern California, so I'm pretty sure that they have a predetermined engineering package. The only one that we probably have to engineer and take a look at would be the monument for the city itself. Would that be correct, gentlemen?
Yes.
Well, that was simple. All right.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the digital billboards would still be subject to review by the city's building department, just
Right.
essentially to confirm what the structural engineer would be telling us, which is the structure safe.
So if the staff didn't hear it, maybe just we can kind of step on the gas pedal to try and make sure that we can move that forward and get the process rolling, if possible. Because I think this would be great for our veterans parades, for our downtown corridor. Also, I'm certain that they're tied into the 911 or the alert systems for stuff that goes on for emergency situations. So this is truly going to benefit our community in a lot of different ways. And the technology's exponentially changed over the last decade. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing now. If there's no other questions from my colleagues and Madam City Clerk, any speakers on this subject?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Patrick Ellis.
He's back.
I'm back. Thank you again. I don't know if it's ironic, funny, or just exciting, but I remember almost 11 years ago sitting in this chamber and Brian coming before the council at that time and offering a 2-for-1 swap on signs, and 3 of the council members vehemently opposed to it because they were just opposed to billboards in general, which unfortunately was, in my opinion, an oversight at that time. I am extremely excited that we are here for this today. I know that I've spoken to, I think, each one of you at some point over the last few months, year, about the digital billboards and how important they are to our community and how this will make a huge difference. Obviously, I think just from an optics standpoint, but from a modern standpoint as well, for the ability for the city to be able to get information out to the community, to those who are passing through the community, on so many different levels is extremely important. The monument sign right out front will be unbelievably the information point for the city, as we all know that we are a desert when it comes to media in this valley, unfortunately, but I think that this will help us tremendously in that standpoint. And I know that Brian and I have talked over the last few years that there will be opportunities, I think, for local businesses to be able to, get opportunities to advertise on a billboard that they probably never would have because of these different relationships that we have going on now. So I think that overall, this is an unbelievable win for our city on so many different levels. And so I'm obviously completely in support of this and hoping for another 5-0 vote on this tonight. So thank you.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, next speaker.
That concludes public comments.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing now, and I'm going to bring it back to the dais for comments. Not hearing any, we'll be looking for a motion and a second, please. Oh, you guys are fast. Yeesh. Man. I can't even change screens quick enough. All right.
Mr. Mayor, motion carries unanimously 5-0 as recommended to introduce and conduct the first reading of ordinance number 587-22 entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Murrieta, California, amending chapter 16.10 through 16.14 and 16.38 of the Murrieta Municipal Code related to billboards and relocation agreements.
Well, you said all of that in one breath. That's impressive. Yep. All right. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Item number 15, establishing credit card processing fee. Mr. Carcamo. Good evening, sir. Where's your elf shirt?
Good evening.
He's in business attire now.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. Javier Carcamo, Director of Finance. Tonight, this agenda report aims to gain City Council approval for the institution of a convenience fee for credit card transactions. The California Government Code Section 6159 allows public agencies to authorize the acceptance of a credit card as a method of payments and also impose a convenience fee. Thank you. Most cities and other public agencies accept credit cards, debit cards as a courtesy and offering a convenient payment option for their customers. Such convenience fee imposed for accepting credit cards cannot exceed the cost incurred by the agency. Currently, the city accepts credit cards, debit cards, checks, and cash as methods of payments. Currently, the city is incurring 100% of the cost of credit card processing fees charged by the credit card merchant services providers. The city currently accepts credit card payments through various online platforms for services. The city has been accepting electronic payments for many, many years. When the city began accepting credit card payments, the transaction volume was low. As the city expanded online services using the platforms as shown in this table, the annual cost has increased significantly. In November of 2019, City Council authorized an agreement with Tyler Technologies to purchase and implement a new land management software, also known as InterGov. InterGov utilizes a citizen self-service portal for customers to submit building applications and pay fees online. With the implementation of InterGov, the volume of online credit card transactions and its costs are expected to increase significantly. Before the city is able to implement an online payment with InterGov system, the city must enter into an agreement with Wells Fargo for credit card merchant services with a proposed fee of 2.9% per transaction. In addition, the city will offer an electronic check, or also known as e-check, payment as an alternative payment mechanism at no cost. Therefore, customers can choose the best payment mechanism, yet both options are integrated with the InterGov system. To manage merchant services costs effectively, finance staff recommend to adopt resolution number 22-4630 entitled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Murrieta, California, establishing a credit card convenience fee for the acceptance of credit card to pay for fees, services, and other debt owed to the city, and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute all necessary documents to set up electronic payments options for the land management system. That concludes my agenda report. I am available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Just for clarification, if somebody uses a check and it's in an ATF, essentially, with that, there isn't a fee. It's only when a credit card is used and or an ATM card, correct?
That is correct. So the other options with the e-check, that will be at no cost to the customer.
Right.
Only if they choose to pay with a credit card.
Right. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to bring it back up to my colleagues for questions. Yes, please.
Thank you for your report. I do have a question for you. If I'm correct, there is also not going to be a fee to anybody that uses their debit card when they use a PIN. Is that correct?
The debit cards transaction also goes through the same merchant services provider.
Okay.
I believe that there's also a fee associated with processing those services.
Okay.
Is that a reduced fee, though? I've seen, like, with the state and with other Board of Equalization and the rest, they have no fee for the check or e-check, then there's a fee for ATM, then there's a different fee for the credit card.
The fees for debit card tends to be lower than the credit card fee, primarily because there is a security mechanisms ensuring that the customer in front of us is indeed the owner of that debit card.
Right.
And my last question would be, the fee that we are charging would be the same fee that we are paying, correct?
That is correct.
Just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. Thank you very much.
So essentially, it's a convenience.
Yes, correct. Yes,
Right.
it's a wash. Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from colleagues? Hearing none. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Public comments, Madam City Clerk?
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'm looking for a motion. And a second. It's not popping up here.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Okay, so item number 16, adoption of the 2022 Fire Code. Chief, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. We are here this evening to present item number 16, which is the 2022 California Fire Code adoption and public hearing. For some background on this matter, the State of California Health and Safety Code mandates that the California Building Standards Commission adopt and publish the California Building Standards Code every 3 years. This includes the California State Fire Code. The 2022 edition of the California Fire Code automatically becomes effective statewide on January 1st, 2023. State law permits local jurisdictions to make modifications, referred to as local amendments, that may be more but not, in no event, less stringent than the requirements adopted by the state. To incorporate these local amendments, jurisdictions must make the findings based on local amendments and make sure they are reasonably necessary due to local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions. In accordance with the requirement of the state law and in order to maintain appropriate standards and regulations pertaining to the protection of life and property from the fire and other hazards, it's necessary to incorporate within the Murrieta Municipal Code the 2022 edition of the California Fire Code as set forth in Part 9, Title 24 of the California Code of Regulations and amend the Murrieta Municipal Code. This code shall then constitute the fire code for the city of Murrieta. At the council meeting on November 1st, Murrieta Fire and Rescue recommended the city council adopt the 2022 California Fire Code with local amendments. The city council requested that they directed staff to modify the proposed local amendments pertaining to access, and the modifications were made to address the city council's direction, which Fire Marshal Reinertsen will cover in our presentation on the code in a minute. Staff noted that effective during the 2022 California Fire Code adoption with the proposed local amendments, it would not occur until January 6th now that we had our first reading on November 15th. So as the state's version of the fire code becomes effective on January 1st, 2023, without MFR's proposed amendments, staff is proposing, in addition to adopting the fire code, we adopt an urgency ordinance at the city council meeting today, December 6, 2022. Adopting the urgency ordinance, which is attachment 2, would ensure the proposal of local amendments contained are effective on January 1st and remain in place until the city's fire code goes into effect on January 6th. So Fire Marshal Reinertsen has a presentation on the changes we've made to the fire code. If you would like to work along, we have provided the crosswalk that was requested at the first meeting. And the crosswalk takes our local amendments based on the California Fire Code and then our existing fire code we had in place for the city of Murrieta. And I apologize that the print is so small. It's hard to get all of this on one page. But I think when you look at these local amendments as we go through the presentation, you will see that what we're talking about is not making the fire code more stringent for our community, but making it more specific for the community that we serve. So with that, I'll hand it over to Fire Marshal Reinertsen.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I don't think my mic was on. There we go. Chief, could I have the remote over there? There we go. Okay, so this presentation is basically the same as the presentation that we went through a couple weeks ago. So we'll run back through it real quick. I noticed that I have the wrong date on it immediately. Okay, the 2022 California Fire Code is based on the 2021 International Fire Code with California state amendments. Local amendments are allowed on the basis of topographical, geological, and climatic conditions. The effective date of the state code is January 1st, 2023. And as the chief mentioned, we're also bringing an urgency ordinance so that we are able to meet that January 1st date. Summary of changes. General cleanup and reorganization. We deleted a lot of obsolete amendments that the state code and the model code had caught up with. So there were a lot that we were able to do away with this time. Cleanup of charging language to clarify what portions of the code are adopted. Fire department access requirements. So we added a definition for all-weather surface. And so that definition now says a road surface of asphalt, concrete, approved pavers, or an engineered surface such as decomposed granite compacted to 95%, capable of supporting a 75,000-pound fire apparatus in all weather condition. 50321 is a reduction in the access road width for multifamily and commercial developments from 28 feet to 26 feet. So that will help with our current development. 50361, we added a provision for remote automatic gate openers. If you'll remember, this is something that we've already been doing. We just codified it. So essentially, these are remote openers that are on our apparatus that we can key to open exterior gates on developments.
They're not conditioned to install a strobe system. Would that be correct? Or a system that if you're rolling code, that would alert it to open automatically. We're actually using a remote, that's the ones that we have.
It is the strobe system.
Okay, it is a strobe system then.
On, yes,
On new construction.
On new
Yes,
construction.
on new.
On existing, we're just updating with a remote.
Or the lockbox.
Or the knock.
Lockbox on existing. Okay. New construction will require any new construction will be required to come into the current code, which will be the
Perfect. Thank you for that. And one other thing, because the Mayor Pro Tem had asked, with respect to the all-weather surfaces, that is, we're referring to when we're talking about DG, only on the rural residential applications, not the commercial, correct?
Yes, correct. And that is in 50323, which we're going to get to right now.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, how's that?
No worries, no worries.
Thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Okay, so 50323, this was the provision that we went back and made some additional amendments to from our first visit with you on November 1st. So that language now reads, fire apparatus access roads shall be designed and maintained to support the imposed loads of fire apparatus at 75,000 pounds and shall be hard surface, paved or concrete and suitable for fire apparatus. Pervious pavers may be used when designed, installed, and maintained to hold the imposed loads of fire apparatus at 75,000 pounds and are approved by the fire code official. All of that to that point is the same as what is currently in our code. So what we added to that provision is in rural areas, all weather surfaces may be utilized for fire apparatus access roads where slopes permit. All weather surfaces must be maintained to engineered standards. Failure to do so will result in violations as outlined in 15.24.120, which is also something we talked about a couple of meetings ago.
Should that not say rural residential instead of all rural areas, or?
As part of the discussion, we were asked to remove the residential from the rural settings and just make it.
Because of the businesses that may be operated in the rural settings.
Such as,
Right.
imagine a winery that wants a DG approach for aesthetics.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
And,
All right.
and we covered that the intent here is the rural settings, so these are the lower density,
Thank you.
lower fire occupancy.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Okay, the next change is to the mid-rise ordinance. The mid-rise ordinance has existed for a few cycles now in the city's code. It was originally applicable to buildings 4 stories or higher. We have changed that to buildings 5 stories or higher to assist some of the current development that we have going in. It also coincides with construction types, so it just made more sense for us to change that to 5 stories. So no change in the requirements, only change to which buildings are subject to the requirements. So we didn't change anything else within the mid-rise. We just made it applicable to 5 stories rather than 4.
Can you explain on that change? That's pressurized stairwells, is that correct? That- we
Yes.
just want to make sure that
Yes,
just for edification
yes, that's one of the
purposes.
primary.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So for recommendations, we actually have 3, which are in your staff report. The first is to conduct the public hearing this evening. The second would be to conduct the second reading and adopt ordinance 584-22, which is the ordinance adopting the California Fire Code 2022 edition. And then the third would be to adopt the urgency ordinance number U 586-22, entitled an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Murrieta, California, adopting the California Fire Code 2022 edition. And the reason, again, for the urgency ordinance is we will have a 6-day window in there where we would not have our own municipal code. We would only have the state fire code applying to our city.
Question for you with regard to that. Do we do this in 2 separate, or can we do them combined?
You can do them combined.
Okay, very good. All right, so on that note, I'm going to bring it back up to my colleagues. I want to take the opportunity, Chief, to tell you thank you, and to the Fire Marshal for going through all of this and being patient with the council and walking through it. I know that you guys hustled to get it done and to create the crosswalk, and it's appreciated. All right, on that note, Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, and I'm just going to concur what the mayor said, so thank you very much.
Councilmember White.
Thank you for your report and all your effort.
Councilmember Warren.
Great job. Thank you so very much. I concur with my colleagues' comments.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll just say thank you so much, and thank you for listening and being educational as we're going through this. So I remember doing this before, but I feel like the grasp is much stronger now, and thank you, and welcome again. So.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at this point. And public comments, Madam City Clerk.
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, very good. All right, so I'm going to bring it back to the council. And we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. I need a motion and a second, please. A little smoother this time around, Chief, wouldn't you say?
Education is very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, motion carries unanimously 5-0 as recommended, including the adoption of urgency ordinance number U 586-22, entitled an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Murrieta, adopting the California Fire Code 2022 edition based on the 2021 International Fire Code, including local amendments and additions, and declaring the urgency thereof to ensure the Murrieta Fire Code.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I was going to ask you if that was included. I should have known better that you would have that dialed in and waiting. We appreciate you. All right, item number 17. Mr. Carcamo, you're on deck again, I guess.
Yes, we are. Good,
All right, sir.
good evening,
guys.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Javier Carcamo, Director of Finance, and to my left tonight is Jennifer Terry, Finance Manager. Tonight's report objective is to share the operating results for fiscal year 2021-22. It is noteworthy to mention that the external financial audit is in its final phase, but I do not foresee a significant deviation from today's report on financial results. This report also includes a request to carry over an unspent budget for certain obligations at year end. So as I stated, this report includes a summary of year-end financial activities for revenue and expenditures for all funds. Finance staff will come back in February February of next year to deliver a combined budget report for the first and second quarter, also known as the mid-year budget report for fiscal year 2022-23. This report will include a request to appropriate available fund balance now that we know the results for the fiscal year 2021-22 financial activities. Last week, we kick-started the biannual budget process for the next 2 years for fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25. The biannual budget process includes a budget workshop scheduled for May of 2023 and the proposed budget adoption scheduled for June 2023. Lastly, we expect to complete the fiscal year 21-22 annual comprehensive financial report around February of 2023. Finance staff will bring an agenda report for City Council to receive and file the final audited financial statements. At this point, I am handing over the presentation to Jennifer to provide an overview of the city's financial activities for all funds.
Thank you, Javier. The citywide results for fiscal year 21-22 are as follows. The total revenue ended up at $164 million, which was $316,000 under the amended budget. The total expenditures were nearly $130 million, or $18.2 million under budget. The overall positive contribution to fund balance for all funds is approximately $34.1 million. The contribution to fund balance for the general fund and Measure T will be covered later in this presentation. Citywide revenue results. The adopted budget was prepared at the beginning of the pandemic, and projections were extremely conservative. In February 22, as part of the mid-year budget update, revenues were evaluated and adjusted based on year-to-date collections. As you can see, these projections were very close to our year-end actuals, with a variance of only $316,000. Sales tax is the city's top revenue stream. Combined, we collected $54.5 million in sales tax. For reporting purposes, we account for Bradley Burns, also known as sales and use tax, and Measure T separately. The collection of the voter-approved Measure T sales tax began in the spring of 2019. This slide reflects a 4-year trend of sales tax collections. The blue represents Bradley Burns and orange Measure T. We experienced a modest decrease in Bradley Burns in fiscal year 20 due to the pandemic, but the following 2 years we have seen measurable growth. Property taxes are the city's second largest revenue stream, with $30.9 million last year. Property taxes are calculated based on the assessed property value as established by the Riverside County Assessor's Office. Of the total ad valorem, or general purpose property taxes collected, the city receives 7%. Over a 4-year period, property taxes have grown by $1.2 million. In fiscal years 20 and 21, property tax collections increased by approximately 5% each year, while in fiscal year 22, the increase was slightly lower at 3%. This increase in collection is largely due to the increases in property values and not the percentage of taxes charged by the county assessor. Thank you for saying that, because we were going to get phone calls. Transient occupancy tax, or TOT, the city collected $2.1 million in transient occupancy taxes last year. This is an up-and-coming revenue source for the city as new hotels are constructed, in addition to the highly anticipated opening of the Murrieta Hot Springs Resort. This revenue source is subject to faster swings in the market conditions, But as we saw during the pandemic, but as reflected on this chart, the TOT revenues recovered fairly quickly and have now surpassed pre-pandemic levels. Citywide expenditures for fiscal year 22 totaled $129.8 million. We were 12.3% or $18.2 million under the amended budget. Budgetary savings for each fund will be reflected as a contribution to fund balance for that fund and can be used for future expenses. Personnel costs were 9% or $7.3 million under budget. A portion of this budgetary savings came from planned salary savings of $1.8 million from 14 temporarily frozen positions. The balance of $5.5 million in savings is from unfilled or vacant positions. Operations and maintenance total came in at $35.9 million, which was 26% or $12.5 million under budget. Of the $12.5 million, 7.2 is requested to be carried over into fiscal year 23 as part of tonight's action. The balance is from savings from contract services or unused program costs. One example of unused program costs is from our homeless program. They received grants over the past year and a half that were used prior to utilizing their general fund budget. Carryover requests. Purchase orders are established for the acquisition of goods and services as operating activities and or for specific projects. When those projects are not completed within the same fiscal year as the PO was established, the unspent portion of the PO and its associated budget can be carried over into the next fiscal year. PO carryover requests are approximately $7.2 million, which are made up of 61% for capital improvement, 28% for O&M or operations and maintenance, and 10% for budget-only carryovers. Some of the budget-only carryovers include one-time replacement or purchase of computer equipment and software. Also, unspent grant funds are being requested to be carried over. The changes in unassigned fund balance for the city's 5 major funds: General Fund, Measure T, Fire, CSD, and Library. The General Fund unassigned fund balance improved by $4.7 million, or 26%. These monies can be used for one-time purchases in the future. Measure T unassigned fund balance decreased by 24%. As part of the current biennial budget process, City Council authorized $10.3 million to be transferred into reserves for Fire and CSD operating reserves, establishing facility and fleet reserves, as well as for continuing operation reserves. Having reserves to pay for costly fleet replacement and to maintain aging infrastructure is part of a sound, conservative financial approach.
And those dollar amounts that you're referring to on those line items are carried over into the next fiscal year for the budget, right?
The reserves?
Yes.
Those stay in as assigned reserves, yes.
Okay, so they stay as reserves. All right.
Yes, sir. And the only way we could use them is through council action.
All right, thank you.
For CSD and Fire, the goal is to maintain each of their fund at a zero unassigned fund balance, since their operations are offset by the general fund. There was one late transaction for the CSD that resulted in the fund having a negative, a negative unassigned fund balance. This will be taken care of as part of a future budget update. The Fire Fund had a modest decrease in the unassigned fund balance of $24,000 or 4%. Their nominal budgeting is prolonging the need for the general fund to offset their operations. And finally, the recommended action for this report are to accept and file this year-end budget update report and amend the fiscal year 23 operating budget to include the fiscal year 22 carryovers. This concludes our presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Colleagues, for any questions, starting Councilmember White.
Thank you for your report. No questions.
Okay, Councilmember Stone,
I have no questions.
Councilmember Warren,
I too have no questions, but thank you very much for your thorough report.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No questions, thank you so much.
Okay, and I have none at this time. At this point, we're going to go ahead and, I guess, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing, and do we have anybody?
We're just going to open public comments. This is
Okay, we're just going to go ahead
discussion.
and open public comments then?
Yes, and they're seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, fantastic. Going to bring it back to the council. This time, if there's no other questions, we're looking for a motion in a second.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0, noting that this is as the City Council, RSA, CSD, Fire District, Library District, and Housing Authority members.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Notifications, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a notice of pending approval of final tract map TR 36779 for Adobe Springs. An application was filed by Adobe Springs for a tentative tract map to subdivide 37.49 acres into 20 parcels for condominium development. Engineering staff has completed a review of the final map for conformance. It conforms to the conditions of the approval and the tentative parcel map. All dedications and mitigation required in the conditions of the approval have been offered and secured. The Mylars of the original final parcel map will be available at the City Clerk's office by contacting me at 951-461-6031.
Okay,
That
thank
concludes
you.
the notification.
And for those, just to disclose again, we're going to be holding our closed session meeting after this meeting. So we'll recess and go into closed session and come back. So for those that don't want to stay, that don't need to stay, we'll disclose what transpires in the meeting. All right, so we're going to go to government body announcements. We're going to go ahead and start with Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of things I wanted to talk about. And you can see there are some slides and we can go through them. But I did want to talk about the Santa in the City. What a wonderful event for our children and families alike. We had the opportunity to dress up and be at last night's. And then today we went to the one special needs first between 4 and 5, which was just wonderful. I encourage our families and our children to come out, enjoy these locations, and seeing Santa and getting a candy cane and just enjoying the evening with your family. Lots of fun things to do. The city is amazing, and our quality of life is far better than many others, and I'm so honored to be a part of it. That concludes my announcements. If anybody wants to reach me, my phone number is there, or my email at the same time. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will defer to the next council meeting.
Councilmember White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now that we're in December, I just want to wish everyone a safe and blessed, happy holiday season, whether you're decorating your home for Kwanzaa, lighting candles on the menorah, or trimming your Christmas tree. So have a blessed holiday season. And lastly, I just would like to acknowledge, give huge congratulations to the fabulous staff at the Murrieta Public Library, along with the library manager, Melvin Rosellis, on applying for grants and being awarded more than $1.5 million in grants to support the programming for our residents. Our grant writing staff have doubled and tripled their efforts, and so much has been accomplished, and so many great awards have come through to equal 1.5 million. So that's quite an accomplishment, and it deserves a huge acknowledgement. So thank you to our library staff. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I'll just receive and file mine because I haven't done that in a while. So just want to make a comment with Councilwoman Stone. I attended the Cal State San Marcos tour and informational lunch. We also discussed the need of a 4-year degree educational opportunity for this Western Regional area. It's the Women's Elected group is really pushing to stop the brain drain of our region. Also, one of the highlights was of this month of lots of things was the Buchanan Elementary School came through, and it was absolutely darling. Just to make one comment on that, Crystal was kind enough to lend me her office. So I'm sitting in her office and she introduces me. This is the Mayor Pro Tem. They said, "Where's the real mayor?" So that was absolutely cute. And so I said, well, he was busy, so I was filling in. So anyway, just if you need to get a hold of me, please feel free to call or text me directly for faster service, or you can send me a wonderful email if you are verbacious. So thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, this month has certainly been a busy month with all of our city events and everything that's gone on. Our staff has done a fantastic job. So many different events that it's shocking that, I sit back and I look, and 8 years went by very, very fast for me. It seems like yesterday, and I look and watch all the events and how much everybody's worked together and how much the city does for its residents. And I just love it. Absolutely love it. Look forward to actually being on the other side of the stage for a while, sitting out in the audience and hanging out. I think. I guess I'll be sitting out there with Cass and the rest of the crowd with no filter. I think that that we are blessed. That yesterday was a lot of fun with the event and being with the three elves, which was very interesting and a lot of fun. And thank you, Dominique, for taking all the photos. I think this year is going to be a blessed year, and I wish everybody, I concur with Councilmember White, we wish you a blessed holiday season, no matter what you're celebrating. Be safe, enjoy your family, and God bless you. On that note, we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to adjourn to closed session.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may do an announcement of closed session items.
Yes, ma'am.
The City Council will meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to enable the City Council to consider negotiations and to give direction to its negotiators regarding that certain real property along Sparkman at the intersection of Murrieta Hot Springs Road, APNs 910-031011 and 910-031020, with the owners of the property. City's real property negotiators, city manager, assistant city managers, development services director, city engineer, and city attorney will seek direction from the City Council. City Council will also meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956(9)(d)(2) and D3, significant exposure to litigation, and there are no public comments.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. We're going to go recess to closed session. Thank you. Please turn on the mic. All right, we are back from closed session. Madam City Attorney, would you please disclose?
Absolutely. The City Council met in closed session on 2 items. The first was to confer with a real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. The council was updated, no reportable action. The second item was to confer with legal counsel regarding one case of anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Sections 54956.9 D2 and D3. Again, the council was updated, no reportable action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Anyone for comments, anything, Madam City Clerk?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.